Hello, this is Freeware, an autistic virtual YouTuber from Malaysia. So for today's stream, I'm going to talk about the guidelines of content creation related to Japanese freeware games. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I have found out one particular complaint from a game developer regarding the disregard by live streamers who pretty much broke the guidelines set by himself regarding streaming the game. And it's kind of ironic that I, as some random guy kokujin, doing this sort of thing instead of a Japanese native local. But at the same time though, since that this is a Japanese freeware gaming channel, after all, I can't just simply showcase the games themselves, but also some cultural aspects of the scene which needs to be known by any people interested with the scene. So without ado, let's start with this topic. But before I go in further, there's some disclaimers. So first of all, this is a general guide for English speaking content creators. Yeah, this channel is pretty much aimed for them, so this guide is designed for them in mind, and it is not intended to replace readme.txt included in game. So before you stream any games, in fact not just Japanese freeware games, if you are streaming any freeware games, for goodness sake, read the readme.txt that is included in the game folder. It won't take long to read, it's just 5 minutes at maximum, and see if there's anything that you need to pay attention to. Though to be fair, some of the games they don't do that, and instead put the guidelines at the game download page, so you gotta watch that out as well. If you have any questions regarding content creation, ask the developer. That's the safest way. So without ado, let's proceed. So before you download the game, first check the streaming guidelines in the game page. This is very common in Japanese freeware games hosted in freeware game repositories such as Freem and Freeware, but for Vector, that is unfortunately not the case. And this is the main reason why if you count Slide Strike as such, well, that counts as one, since that you can download the game from Vector, but that's one of the very few games from that website which I stream. So if there's no guidelines regarding streaming, then you have to ask permission. So does content creation though. Yeah, I should have noticed the typo on the slides, but never mind. Let's proceed. So take note of the restrictions imposed by the developer. So the restrictions, well, just if you aren't sure, just copy and paste the text into DL Translate. But in the later section, I'm going to show you some common restrictions that the developers have imposed. So Some games also have format restrictions, so quite a lot of games doesn't allow you to live stream the game, but allows normal video instead. And a select few which I have encountered has the reverse, where you are required to stream the game and leave the stream archive instead of creating video from scratch. So if you want to make good use of, say, promoting your content and whatnot, use Twitter and YouTube. These two places are the common platforms used by Japanese freeware game developers. And for content creators on Twitch, there's something that you need to pay attention later on. So if you are watching this and you are a Twitch user, please stay. So the next one is very obvious. Do not use content for commercial purpose without permission. This is a sore point between the developers and the content creators. So the reason is simple. Freeware games, they are built upon the foundation of non-commercialization, which no one in the scene should make money off the creations, and this is something that everyone who are involved in the scene has to abide by. And considering what happens in the mainstream gaming world, it does make sense why they took this kind of stance. But not all developers have a strict, or even not necessarily an informal restriction against commercialized content. Gun Saga and its sequel Gun Saga Redied, if I'm not mistaken, it does allow monetized live streams. Let me double check for that. Please hold. Yep, I have checked. Yes, those two games can be used for commercial purposes. So as for others, please double check whether it is allowed or not. So, and also, if you are linked to a business entity, even if said business is just a business that you registered for your individual VTubing activities, please obtain permission first, because a majority of the games, they do not allow anyone who has ties with any kind of business to create content out of them. So if you don't want to get trouble, yet you want to maintain some degree of business profile with your VTubing works, then you definitely have to get permission first. And this goes double if you are an agency VTuber. And there's a reason why agency VTubers don't stream those games. And for those people who aspire to become a VTuber like me, I would really suggest that you do this just as a hobby or something that you are passionate about, because you don't want to get into controversy when you try to make money off those things. And considering that you are likely not a Japanese person, then you are likely to be labeled as the Logan Paul of Japanese freeware gaming scene, which is obviously a bad thing that can happen, that no one should be wanting to get happen to. So let's move on to the next part. So before you create content for the game, read the readme.txt for any additional restrictions. So it is possible that whatever restrictions that comes in creating content for the game is not entirely included in the game page, especially when it is posted on Freeware game repository. So you should check the text out just to confirm is there anything added. Then next, do not read game assets to make thumbnail and announcements. This is very important because whatever the copyright that is assigned from the asset makers to the game developers are absolutely do not extend to content creators, especially if you are monetizing your content, which something which I have, as I previously said, something that you absolutely don't do. And in fact, some game developers have straight up banned their games from content creation precisely because they could not control whether the people who create content out of the games are abide by the non-monetization rule, and in some cases the developers have been held liable over that. So if you want to be able to create content for a game, do not do this. As a content creator, you have no rights over the game assets, only the game that developer do. So instead, you should use in-game screenshots and try not to modify it too much to the point that the screenshot misrepresents what the game does. And the risk of this sort of thing happening is precisely why all of my game streams uses the title screen only. So for the next one, do not spoil the game in the title, description and thumbnail. This again is a cultural thing. The Japanese, as far as I know, the Japanese gaming scenes, even mainstream ones, are very wary of spoilers. So if you create content, you gotta respect that aspect of things. So the last one, familiarize yourself with the game beforehand. So as for my experience, it's better for you to test the game out for functionality issues or gameplay issues that you might encounter before you actually create content for the game, just in case that if you don't like the game, then you can just move on to the next game rather than, you know, throwing your created content away because of issues with the game. So next up, so while creating content for the game, so tag the developer in announcements over Twitter, and this is actually recommended, though depend, but don't do it to the point of spamming. You are going to get blocked, and possibility your content will get striped when it gets out of hand. And if, by the way, the good thing about this is that if the game developer likes your content, then they will actually promote said content to their own social media, mostly Twitter, and you could get some new viewers or new subscribers this way. And this actually has happened to me before quite a few times. Then next up, include the game name in content title. This is pretty much the rule for almost every single Japanese Freeware game that I have streamed. Include game website in content description. This is also the same case as the game name in content title. Include the game title as tag if required. Some games does have this rule, but most games do not. Just check the readme.tags and the rules on the game page to be safe. Leave the archive open for all. This is actually the default rules if you stream games downloaded from free. This is part of the default message if when a game developer uploads the game to free, which is accepted by most of the game developers. And related to this, for goodness sake, if your channel has membership, don't do a membership only stream from that sort, these games, and that includes member only archives and the like. The game devs do not like it when that happens. So the last one, stay positive even if you are struggling with the game. So a lot of the game devs, they have a specific rule that this allows excessive criticism on the game. And there's a game that I have viewed today which straight up said that does not allow even reviews for the game. So yeah, you gotta be real careful on this particular aspect as well. So let's head to the common restrictions imposed on content. So first of all, omake spoiling. So regarding omake spoiling, this is actually more or less a game by game basis. The only games that I am not allowed to stream the omake is both games in Boshoku no Machi and its sequel. When I download the game, it is pretty much spelled clear because they are pretty much spoilers for the game, so it's kind of understandable. Defamation, excessive criticism. This is again the standard rule for all the games may uploaded to free, but also applies to games hosted everywhere else. And finally, membership only access. I have already talked about it just now. So the conclusion here is that the game devs and content creators, they need each other. So having the respect in content creation is a must. So based on what I have seen so far over Twitter is that some game developers, they have a love-hate relationship with content creators, in the sense that as much as they appreciate that the content creators have helped promoted the game, but when they disregards the guidelines and the rules that they put in place, they will get bitter about it. And in some cases they have gotten trouble with game asset makers, which have their own restrictions, mind you, which is binding on the developers, and the developers are expected to tell or extend the same rules to the content creators. But when the content creators broke those rules, they get away with it, while the developer ends up, well, having to deal with the consequences from the game asset makers. So if things gone bad, then the game developer will just simply ban content creation altogether to stop all those hassle from happening. So that's something that we really shouldn't wishing to see. And if you don't like what I have said earlier, you might as well as create content for other games. The gaming world is huge. If these rules and guidelines means is something that you cannot accept, then you can go create content for other games. So if there's anything that if you have any criticisms on what I have said today, you can leave a comment. I'll have a look whenever I can. So live chat is disabled for the next 2 weeks because of the recent spam bot stuffs that has caused channels to be banned. So I have to take this extreme precaution. Sorry about that. So that's it for today's stream. So tomorrow I'm going to continue with Evil God Pangman's Resurrection on 9:10 p.m. UTC plus 8. That's 10:10 p.m. Japan time. And for that stream, I will be likely just grinding levels while having some random chat. So if you are looking forward for a rarely done chatting stream, you should definitely come to watch, even though, yeah, the live chat issue, it sucks, but I have to do it to protect my channel. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.